So if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you have probably seen snippets of my health and wellness journey, but I've never had the opportunity to tell my full story. So as a child, I was always considered the smaller girl. People just knew me as being naturally slim, and I never was overweight. And so due to this, I really did not take my health into consideration. I thought that I was just naturally healthier because I was just naturally slim. But I never made the correlation between food, lifestyle, and health. Even when my body was sending so many red flags that something was wrong. So let's chat. I remember so explicitly, like it was yesterday, always being at family gatherings, family reunions, and there was always something wrong with me. It just seemed like everybody else was enjoying themselves so much while I was still in a lot of pain and was just suffering so much. I remember being at a restaurant one day, the whole family was there, and after I ate my food, I was just laying down on the booth and I felt absolutely terrible. And I remember my dad having to say to the waiter, "I'm sorry, but we have to leave because my daughter is not feeling well at all." And nobody understood what was going on. I didn't understand what was going on, why this was happening. So due to the amount of times that this had happened, I just thought, okay, my body is more sensitive, I guess. So this continued on throughout my childhood, and I just considered it normal. Now, fast forward to when I was in college, and all of the symptoms just got 1,000 times worse. As a busy college student, it was high stress for me. It was a high stress time. I was constantly pulling all-nighters, munching on junk food, drinking sugary drinks to keep me awake throughout the night. I was constantly in the fast food cafe getting fried chicken tenders and French fries. And I did not care. I did not care about my health at the time. All I cared about was just getting through school and getting excellent grades in each of my classes. And honestly, I just want to put that out there. You may put your health on the back burner now, but it's going to eventually catch up to you. And that's what happened to me. My junior year of college, I remember I was up every single night with migraines. There was not a night that went by where I didn't have a migraine. And I remember just laying in my bed, looking up at the ceiling in the dark, just wondering what in the world was wrong. And I max got an hour of rest and then had to wake up and go to classes the next day. And my performance suffered. And even when I came home for breaks and vacation, I would be with my family and then I might want to isolate myself. I was very moody. I couldn't think straight. So I had so much brain fog and my stomach was hurting 24/7 no matter what I ate. Always eating with my family during breaks, and then immediately afterwards, not even wanting to talk, I would just lay on the couch and just lay there for hours and just not know what was going on. So on my birthday, I remember something just clicked. And I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. As a woman in her early 20s, I should not be wanting to stay in the house and isolate. I shouldn't be suffering through all of this. So I made an appointment with my doctor. And thankfully, instead of prescribing me a medication to help with my GI symptoms, instead of giving me meds or helping me with what I was going through mentally, she said, "Why don't you try going gluten-free?" And I was like, okay, well, I've heard of gluten-free, but I really wasn't too familiar with it. So I left the doctor. I'm like, okay, I'm gluten-free. Let me try this. And to be honest, like after the first day, I did feel somewhat of a difference, but it really was not all that great at all. Um, it was not all that great. So what had happened was I had gone straight to the gluten-free section of the store, processed foods. And I just thought, okay, I'm just gonna grab all of these processed foods because I'll be gluten-free, so I'll just be healthier. So here I was, the gluten-free section of the store, just grabbing a lot of processed foods without a roadmap. And I felt worse. So I said, okay, something is up. Something is up. I'm going gluten-free. I'm eating gluten-free. I should not still be feeling terrible. So I did more research late at night. I was a Googleaholic trying to figure out what was going on. And after doing a lot of research, I realized what I was missing, what was happening, what I was doing wrong. And one thing I also want to point out too, before I move forward with what I did, I grabbed the gluten-free snacks. I was eating a lot of gluten-free processed food. Just because a product is labeled gluten-free or vegan doesn't mean that it's automatically healthier. Does not mean that, because those products can contain ingredients that you don't even know how to read, that you don't recognize. So how is your body going to process it well? But fast forward to me Googling everything at all hours of the night, trying to figure out what was wrong. I realized the missing piece, what I was missing. And that was I needed to incorporate more whole foods into my diet, more fruits, more vegetables, more foods that are not in a box, foods that do not come in a box. And so after this revelation of, wow, this is what I have been doing wrong, I decided to make some investments. And so I invested in a blender, and I was experimenting with so many smoothie recipes, and I fell in love with it. Now to this day, I make smoothies almost every day. And I felt 1,000% better, even with just having a smoothie, like once a day. I felt so, so good. And then fast forward, I invested in a food processor and then a juicer. And I'm not saying that I did it overnight. After a few years, I invested in a food processor. After a few years, I invested in a juicer. This is a marathon. This is not a race. You don't have to, this is not a race. It's a process. So I felt so much better, and I really discovered the importance of whole foods. I really discovered the gut-brain connection and the importance of nutrition, self-care, and stress management. And I felt so much better. I cannot emphasize this enough, 1,000% times better. So, and my wellness story is not over. My wellness story is not over yet. There are still things that I have been discovering about what my body can tolerate and what it can't tolerate. And I'll share that more in a later video. But comment down below if you resonate, if some parts of my story resonates with yours.